Sounds like a good time. Welcome to the show. It's House Sparks Megaworldwiide, Saturdays here on WCPT and elsewhere. I think we're up and running, but we'll see as far as it looks like
Oh,
we're streaming somehow. But
let's see. Yeah.
yeah, good. Okay, it takes a second. There we go. Welcome to the show, everybody. So that we got a bit of a swap around happening. Phil's joining us first hour because he's running on limited energy, and he's also participating in, thank God, a program to raise funds and specifically, if I may, generators for the lovely folks of Ukraine. So let me put that up in the. I'll put that up in 1 second in the
Nice.
so everybody can see it. But the key today is that the Russians are obviously doing everything they can to make this whole thing as miserable as possible.
Yeah.
There's a specific Russian word, and maybe you know what it is, Phil, being the genius that you are and having to deal with this all the time. That the Russians use for freezing people to death as a form of genocide, and that is currently, it seems, the strategy.
Zamorozhnya.
Yeah, Zamorozhnya. Yeah, it sounds cold. Although I gotta say, in complete honesty, all Russian sounds cold. I have a theory that their demographic collapse has entirely to do with the fact that it is not a Romance language. You know what I mean?
No, it certainly is not, and it is extremely cold here. Our Chicago audience, I was just saying before we went on air, understands cold very well. I'm a
Yes.
Michigander. I do too. The one thing we have the advantage of not having a massive freshwater lake uh, on
Is
our
not having
shores.
that wind.
That,
Right.
that wind, that Chicago wind. But I am not joking when I say it is cold.
Yeah.
It
Phil,
is
I have to
really
ask, is there such a thing as a Michigoose?
If
a
it's good for the
Michigander
gander. Right.
well. See, now we go into the debate about whether it's Michigander or
Miss a gooser.
Michigandist,
Well, it depends on
Michigooser.
whether you're
Yeah,
coming or going. I think is the issue.
right. Look,
Right.
it's
I'm far too
bitterly
happy
cold.
about
Well,
Michigoose.
look, and actually, I should know because I was just at the OSU
Mm-hmm.
Michigan game, and that was
Yeah.
Oof.
that was covered in snow.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't come out well for us, but we stayed until the end. And
Right.
anyhow, as a Midwesterner, I know cold.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a bitter, bitter cold. It's that thing where it cuts through your bones.
Yeah.
It just bites through you. Um, and Ukrainians are not strangers to this,
Mm.
obviously.
Mm-hmm.
No, in a normal situation, they'd be fine. But uh, because they structure their infrastructure is created such that it is central heating, that if you do lose that central heating, if you lose the heating that is then distributed out to buildings and then the entire building gets heated,
Mm-hmm.
if you lose that crucial uh, uh, central part of the city planning, then hundreds and hundreds, well, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, now here in the capital,
Right.
are going to go without um, uh, provided heating. So we all do what we can, and I've moved into the smallest room in my apartment, and
Mm-hmm.
I have candles going, and I have you know whatever I can get to provide heat.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no. I am now 9 hours, no, 10 hours without power
Mm-hmm.
right now. Yesterday was not so bad. The day before that, it was 16 hours without power.
Okay.
Um, and it's going to get. I think it's going to get worse.
Right.
Um, in terms of the infrastructure. Um, Thankfully, we thought the prediction was that it was going to be minus 20 Celsius this weekend. But it turns out that we had a change in the weather pattern, and it's not quite so bad, but it's minus 12 Celsius, which I think is like minus 8. Oh, I'm sorry, it's like 8, 8, above freezing Fahrenheit.
Right.
Somewhere 6 to 8 would be my bet if I was going to do my calculations. But it's cold. I mean, it's really, really cold. And they're setting up stations around the city where people can go and get warm, and they can power up. For those who are watching, I mean, this is my go-to at-home solid state battery.
Right.
I have larger ones in the studio because of course, I have lights and cameras and stuff in the studio. I might bring them home because right now we're just going to have to be on hiatus with the show because we just can't.
Right.
We
Make
can't
show. Right.
Well, we can't plan. This is
Right.
one of the other things that's been happening this year as opposed to previous years is that the primary electricity provider would put out a public schedule of
Right.
we guarantee that you will have 4 hours of power from 12 until 4 p.m. And so you could kind of schedule, and you could say, okay, I'm going to do my laundry then, or that's when I can get, if you're in a 15 block, 15 floor high rise, okay, that's when I'm going to go shopping because I can get in the elevator and know that I'm not going to get stuck. So, I mean, but this year, because of the devastation that the Russians have inflicted, and the very real damage to the entire electrical grid, we don't know when we're going to have power and when not. It's just, it comes and goes, which of course then opens up a whole other problem with how do you live.
Right.
I've got a little bodega, a little mini market where I would go and get bread and a bottle of Pepsi or toilet paper or whatever, a mini market, a bodega, and they've got a sign on there saying, "Sorry, we're closed. We don't know when we're going to have power. We don't know when it's going to come back. We can't constantly be running off a generator." So these are the secondary and tertiary problems of living in a city that is in effect without power. I mean, this is almost like a kind of a zombie apocalypse kind of thing. Like when the center can no longer hold, what happens when a city, an urban center, can't function? Restaurants are closed. I'm looking out my window right now. Everything is dark. There's a supermarket nearby me, or a chain thing that is staying open.
All right.
Because
Use the Ukrainian word for it. Do you know obviously there's a bodega. And there's a magazine.
Mini
like
market.
a French. Yeah.
There's like a producti.
There you go.
What is the small one in products.
Yeah.
And it's gone. It's closed right now. And the chain market is still open because otherwise we'd already be one step down the road that we're going down. And unless something is done here, this is going to get catastrophic. Yeah. This is going to be a major humanitarian crisis, because if you cannot live, which is the goal,
the Russians,
if you can't live in your most populated cities, people are going to start heading for the door, and there's going to be a refugee crisis. There's going to be internally displaced people crisis because there are parts of the country that are still relatively functioning.
Right.
Um, and even the mayor of Kiev himself said, if you can go, if you have friends or family that you can go to
Right.
that are in these functioning areas where electricity is still, the grid is still working, then go. And that's very unusual for the mayor, Klitschko, who has always been kind of like, we're going to set up things so that we can support you and take care of you and don't worry about it. Everything will be, just hang in with us.
Mm-hmm.
To have him say, get out. If you can for the next couple of weeks, get out
Yeah.
is a heck of a shock. So
Yeah.
look, this is something that I know is underreported, um, because there's lots going on.
Mm-hmm.
What's happening domestically and in our near abroad with Greenland and Venezuela. Um, I think Ukraine is not quite getting the attention it deserves, but we need help.
Right.
The international community has got to step up. Otherwise, we've got another month at least of really really cold weather,
Right.
and you're gonna have people, particularly those who are the most vulnerable, the elderly, folks who are impoverished or displaced already because of the fighting. They're gonna unless they can really step up uh, some form of hard protection and more established relocation centers, instead of these kind of like ad hoc things where you can go and get a tea and a cot and
Right.
power your phone or your batteries. Uh, that's not enough. They need to actually have they need to set up, and they don't have time to do it, um, proper camps. So
Mm-hmm.
there's going to be displacement of people, and sadly, I fear that there's going to be a lot of casualties, because people are going to be exposed to the elements. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, what Ukraine has been afraid of since the beginning of the war, and they've gotten by the first handful of winters, but this one is bad.
Right.
It's really cold, and the damage that the Russians are doing is targeted and is specifically intended to create this crisis. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, um, somehow we have to get this back on the front pages.
Mm-hmm.
And I know the Europeans, the Czechs, for example, the Poles are already, and the Scandinavians are already stepping it up. There are these massive mobile trucks that are being brought in, not only because they can fill in the gaps within the electrical grid, but because they're mobile, um, the Russians won't be able to target them
Mm-hmm.
as easily, so they can move them around. But if we don't start getting electricity back, I mean, if we continue to go day in and day out with 10, 12, 16, 18 hours of no electricity, you can't recharge your batteries. You can't heat your buildings. I'm doing candles. I've
Right.
got candles going right now to provide me light and heat. It's just we're getting to a point where it is going to be a massive humanitarian crisis.
Right. Well, right now on the screen, and for those listening on the radio, there is a GoFundMe called Generators for Ukraine, put up by Anna Clifford. It is donation protected. It will go to where it's supposed to go. We put the link in the chat room on there. We will continue to do that throughout the show. But again, it is a GoFundMe called Generators for Ukraine. Anna Clifford is the person who's put it up there, and this is something that they need. This can make all the difference. If you start spreading these things out and they start getting them, this will be the difference between that level of comfort being weaponized against the Ukrainian people. That could make the difference in whether they have to leave or whether it's a choice. And that's kind of crucial at times like these. So again, Generators for Ukraine, Anna Clifford, GoFundMe. If you can look it up that way, ANNA is Anna Clifford, as in Big Red Dog. And so far they put up a $2,000. They wanted to raise two. They're almost at four. It's insofar as I can see, it's in pounds. They're doing it out of England, I guess. So, anyways, that is there. We will continue to post that. But this is part of this is the plan, period. This is what they want to do is make it as intolerable for the public as possible. And this is, one of the few quivers left in Russia's, or arrows left in their quiver right now, because they're running dry all over the place. Part of what's going on in Iran is yet another example of, like, if Iran's going to need its Shahed drones, for example, Russia is the primary client state for the sale of the Shahed drones. Insofar as I know right now, Iran is not shipping any of those out. Certainly not meeting its quota or whatever Russia would want from them, right? Because and I'm sure they got some left over, but they're going to run dry because of this specifically. One would hope.
Yeah. Well, the Russians have set up factories of their own using the Shahed technology, and then they set up their own factories. So they kind of have they're self-reliant when it comes to Shahed drones, but still they need Iranian scientists and engineers and consultants and all that kind of stuff, and those guys are going to have to go home if it really gets bad and if things really start hitting the fan in Iran. They're going to have to go home. And also, in addition to that, Iran also helps with the shadow fleet with illegal sales of fossil fuels for the Russians. So yeah, if they lose that, just like losing Assad in Syria, they're not doing well. The Russians are not doing well. They're not doing well geopolitically, internationally. They're not doing well on the battlefield. They've made some advances, but they've also had a lot of losses. And the Ukrainians have actually done some counterattacks that have worked well. They can't win on the battlefield, but what they can do is what they're doing now, and that is drive Ukrainians to the point where, and do not make no mistake, don't make the mistake of seeing this as a lack of will from the Ukrainian people. I mean, there is still a very strong desire for Ukrainian sovereignty and stuff. But if you've got a 79-year-old mother who lives on the 15th floor of a high rise, and you can't be taking her up and down those stairs to a warm place or a shelter every night, you're going to have to make the decision of, like, I gotta go. It just doesn't work. So it should not be mistaken for Ukrainians not having the will to resist. It's just we are at a point where you live or die. You freeze in your apartment, or you get out, and you can't be, maybe you have family obligations, or maybe there's some other reason that it's just like it doesn't work anymore. And so this is going to create internally displaced people, and it's going to create a more intense pressure on the rest of Europe with Ukrainian refugees. The Ukrainians are doing everything that they possibly can. Both civil engineers and and the federal government are doing the best they can, and Ukrainian, I've said it before, I'll say it again. Ukrainian civil engineers are some of the best in the world, because they have to deal with this. But they're just, it's too much. This year is too much. It's too cold. There's too much damage, and it's tough. This is probably one of the worst years of the war so far.
Well, and I would say that has a lot to do with sort of the caged beast aspect of where Russia finds itself. We got about a minute before we take the break, and of course, Johnny, if you want to farm questions for the next half hour after,
Sure.
Because I know we're operating on borrowed time with Phil, anyways, and we really appreciate him coming in the first hour. Again, there is news that Putin is purging his inner circle again. I mean, this has been a consistent refrain. Like, no one can square this circle for him, no matter how much he insists. He and Trump are in the same kind of box in a lot of ways, is that they are asking the impossible of the people around them, and when it is not delivered, instead of taking the responsibility, they're blaming this on their own people, and then trying to find somebody who can create an anti-gravity mind ray and solve all their problems. It's not going to happen. And so this will get more intense as they get more desperate to make any kind of wins, because what they're really fighting right now is we got to take a break, we'll talk about it on the other side. There's one thing that they are trying to, I think, stymie right now more than any other thing. We'll talk about that on the other side. It's the Houseworks radio program, Mega Worldwide, now with 100% more Johnny Million. And of course, Philip Bittner, host of On the Edge, joining us live from Kiev. I personally think this is about trying to get more leverage against the security guarantees. So I want to talk about that, because that's what the main thing they seem to be. That's their breaking point, because they know because they know. I think that's the thing that they know will that'll be their biggest problem, because they won't be able to reinvade.
Right. If the battle lines are hardened and solidified as they stand right now, and that's where the border is, and there are guarantees that, like, you cross that line and, like, no question we're coming in, which both the Brits and the French have said, then they're screwed. Well, Putin is screwed. And his cadre, because this is disastrous for them. And there's
I get anything. 60 seconds, and how we just combine the two breaks into one. So only one break, one more break this hour.
Okay, great. Thank you. How much time coming back? Sorry, there was a little over talk.
Right now, you got 45 seconds.
Great.
Thanks for being flexible, Chicago.
Yeah. Yeah. You sound chilly, my brother.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm tired.
I feel bad not wearing a hat. I'm the only guy.
Well, I haven't seen Johnny, but I bet.
Oh, sorry. Yes. Yeah, I'll solve that
cooler
right now.
Than mine.
Beg your pardon. Let me remember that.
Mine is just to keep my bald ass head, warm.
There you go. Does that help?
Oh, much better.
10 seconds.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Go Bears. Go Bears.
Go Bears.
The Bears.
People in the chat are saying at least Johnny's not wearing New York Jets stuff.
You're listening to the Hal Sparks radio program.
Battle stations, everybody. Let's go. Go, 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 go.
Mega Worldwide.
Welcome back to the show. I don't want to be completely left out in that I'm the only one not wearing a toque in this in the live stream at infotainmentwars.com. We don't need the documents. We've got everything memorized. Don't forget to buy our lead line penis pills. But also, it It's been a nasty 32 degrees here in Las Vegas a couple of nights. So it's legit. It's legit cold. It's not that kind. It's not Chicago cold. And so I annoy everyone by walking around in a t-shirt in it because my blood is mostly beef stew at this point. And I like thick blood. Unlike Trump, I like thick, chunky blood. I want my blood you'd have to eat with a fork. You know what I mean? Running through my veins. So I walk around outside in a t-shirt, and everybody's like, it like turns into my mom. Like, you're making me cold. Put on a sweater. That's it. So we were talking a little bit about this during the break. There's how Russia is essentially screwed. But the big thing is that Trump is concerned about security guarantees coming into more than any other factor, it seems. Because, check me on this, Phil, but I think that eliminates one of the biggest wins that they could possibly have, which is the power to re-invade. That the whole purpose for them for a ceasefire, or the whole purpose for them of any kind of peace process, is to get them so they have a pause, so they can have a second win, so they can do the third attack or the fourth attack, depending on when you're keeping track from. Since Euromaidan, that's really what this is about. That they can't do it again if there's a bunch of Brits and U.S. service people running around for fear that they might kill one, and that will really start something, because Donald Trump will not be around when it happens, and whoever is in charge, Democrat or Republican, they're not going to like it. If U.S. not even contractors or service people, but business execs, whoever's doing our grain/mineral deal with Ukraine, right? If those people get killed or harmed, Russia knows that's a non-starter. Thank you, Mark P, for putting that in there too.
And the other thing that they really want to avoid is something ink on paper that says these are the borders, and if like the Budapest Memorandum of '94 was written in such a way that it kind of like it did give some wiggle room, arguably. Ukrainians don't quite see it that way, but arguably it left some ambiguous language. Whatever is written down at the end of this war says categorically, we will set up a no-fly zone, we will send in troops, we have these units that will go here and these units that will go there, and we will provide a defensive force of 60,000 men, or whatever it is. But it leaves no room for discussion. That it's like, if you cross the line, this is what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. That's exactly what Moscow doesn't want. Because one of the most powerful weapons that Moscow has is the weak spine of the West, is the fear of a nuclear power, right, and getting into a direct conflict with Moscow. And they rely on that. They rely on the idea that, like, you better not cross this line because, remember, we have nuclear weapons, and
right. Yeah, mutual assured destruction as a tactical way of allowing them to attack anyone. Right.
Exactly. And they rely on that. And if that is taken away from them in a negotiated peace or a ceasefire in this current conflict, then they've got nothing. And they can't accept that either. Mm-hmm. And the thing that has really been angering a lot of Ukrainians lately, especially with this electrical crisis, mm-hmm. Because there are a couple of cities in retribution, Ukraine has hit a couple of Russian cities, and they are without power. And the Red Cross put out a thing saying, oh, how terrible it is. Everybody's going to stop this. The winter is horrible. This is creating this humanitarian crisis. And they mentioned a bunch, these Russian cities that were hit. again, as retribution. And the Ukrainians have said it's not the same.
Yeah.
It's not the
Right.
same.
We were attacked. Like responding in kind with with the limited weapons that we have to an attack on our country is not the same as them abjectly doing it for the stated goal of taking over our country. And like that's the problem I have with the whole like war what is it good for kind of refrain, is that while no one wants war, both sides are engaged in a war, but both sides didn't start the war. There is not equal culpability in a war almost ever. And so there's almost a lack of vocabulary in describing what is happening to Ukraine, even though it's Russia's aggressive war against Ukraine, period, full stop. There seems to be this like, okay, guys, both of you settle down. In this circumstance, we're like, we wouldn't even have to settle down if they would just get out of our country. It's this very strange, like, mental gap. It's a scotoma in the eyes of people who are talking about this.
Yeah, there's also another thing for the Ukrainian armed forces where they're like, we are going to do this in response to what they're doing to our electrical grid, so that Russians will know the same kind of pain. But it is still not their priority. Whereas Russia is making this a priority. This is a goal. They want to make Ukrainians suffer. Ukrainians rather, are responding in kind, but strategically, militarily, all the rest of it, and also to keep the moral high ground, it's not in their best interest to target Russia's electrical grid. That's not going to change the course of the war. So they've hit a couple of cities, and they've darkened a couple of cities, and they've made the electrical grid in a couple of Russian cities hurt, so that Russians know the pain that they're inflicting on Ukrainians. But the priority, especially with the limited resources that they have in Ukraine, they're not prioritizing hurting the Russian population.
Right.
They are still targeting their fossil fuel production, refineries,
because it's how they fund the war effort, right? So these are legit targets in that regard. Yeah,
right. So strategically for Ukrainians, they have not made hitting Russian electrical systems and grids a priority, only kind of like a response.
And if they're upstream from a chemical plant or a military plant,
there's that too. Sure, but what the Russians are doing, by contrast, is prioritizing making the suffering of the Ukrainian people a number one goal of their military objective.
Right.
The Ukrainians are not doing that. The Ukrainians do not have like a laser focus on let's make the Russians hurt. Yes, they are doing it, but more it is strict. For the Ukrainians, it is strictly what is going to be effective strategically to help them win this war, and that I think is an important difference and a distinction
Absolutely.
that needs to be
made.
It's
a huge moral difference. It is and one that the Russians are currently completely devoid of. I will say that one of the bright lights that I've seen recently is like there was an article there's in all of the Russian papers right now. One of the phrases that I saw was galloping inflation. In Russia right now, that prices there, as much as we've been talking about how like prices went up under Iran, and that's what in many ways contributed to the uprising there. But this is and it is in large part, I guess, to Russia's raising their own VAT tax, which is their effective way of like shifting the tariff burden onto the consumer, because that's what a VAT is. Effectively, it's a consumer-based tariff. And by shifting that onto the consumer, it raises the price of just about everything. Because again, Russia produces almost nothing. It is stunning. I don't know. We know that China gets 80 to 85% of its fuel and food, It's fuel and food from outside the country, from other countries. It has to import 80 to 85% of its fuel and food, which is insane on a country that size. both geographically and by population. Russia seems to be in very much a similar situation because I don't know, especially during the winter, I don't know what their crop yields would be like. During this time of the year, it'd be zero. So unless you're storing it up and you're building incredible food stores, you're buying it, right? And those prices are going up for everyone, and they're doing it basically, on the backs. I guess they've gutted all their oligarchs, and now they're doing it on the backs of their own people. Let's take a break a moment early because I want to get questions from everybody on the other side of this break real quick because we blew past the quarter hour. We'll be back right after this. It's the House Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide. And Mark P., thank you for putting the link in the chat as well a couple times. I popped it up on screen. Appreciate it. And CSL, thanks for pinning that and post it on Substack link and Instagram. Thank you, Andrea. Excellent. Yeah. So the food prices over there are spiking like crazy. The other.
And the fact that they're talking about it openly on, Sobolev or whatever, and then you can't ignore it. It means a lot.
Mm-hmm.
They're not supposed to talk about stuff like this.
Oh man, I've been watching those guys just eating crow left and right. And it's not, and they're not enjoying their days at work. You think you're cold in your studio? They're wearing parkas inside this, right? Solovyev and this other dude, the bald dude that looks like evil Phil Collins. I forget what his name is. He does. He looks like evil Phil Collins. I'll see if I can find a picture of him. But both of them are.
Sobolev likes that look, though. I don't know if he likes that puffy, jacket thing. He does that all the time, regardless.
10 seconds.
Thank you. Yeah.
But the fact that Simonian has come back on, despite her cancer, that says something.
I didn't realize she had cancer. I didn't know that part.
You're locked into the House Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Again, Phil, thank you for joining us the first hour. And Johnny, let's grab some of the questions from the chat room because I will chew Phil's ear this entire time if we don't.
I've got one from Edward Bremen. Could you ask Philip if Ukraine could decentralize heating in cities with small sand batteries around the cities in the future?
In the future? Anything's possible.
That's going to be a major project. Not to say that they couldn't do it, but that they are in such a crisis mode right now that what they're looking for is an immediate response. Now is not the time to be thinking about major projects to, long-term, medium to long-term solutions to this problem. They need to do this right now.
Yeah.
So what they're focusing on is trying to get, as I say, these enormous, flatbed trucks with, generators that they can move around cities, and they can, and they've got little, substations, and they're doing these immediate kind of ad hoc, refugee centers. Inflatable refugee centers, but this is a crisis situation, and what it sounds to me you're proposing, which is something that does need to be done. They need to decentralize, because that was the Soviet system, that was the Russian system, was to centralize heating, and they want to move away from that, but it's not going to get resolved now. And the problem is with, minus 20 degree Celsius conditions, they just need to put people in warm places and stop them from dying right now. And it's a crisis, and it needs to be dealt with right now. So they do want to move away from a centralized heating system, but that's going to be a
It's a
years, if not
giant
decades
infrastructure
long.
undertaking. Right, undertaking. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's grab another one, Johnny.
Sure thing. I've got one from our very own Andrea the Mod is
Mm-hmm.
asking, so in Trump's, she wants to talk about Trump and Putin and during Trump's second term. It seems to be cash, not compromise. And Trump has more investors, and is he not as afraid of Putin?
I mean, yeah. You know,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of what I think Putin has on Trump is financial. So yeah, that
Mm-hmm.
could alleviate some of the pressure. Some of it, though, is it's Epstein. It's
Yeah.
all sorts of other
I've been saying for a while that
bad stuff.
Trump has bigger fish to fry than a PP tape at this point. Honestly, that would seem innocuous compared to what's in the Epstein files. And the question is,
Yeah.
does Russia's Israeli slash Qatari slash UAE links have access to some of that stuff from years ago, and they were and they're threatening him with that, but the problem is even if they threaten him with it, there's already a law passed that says that stuff's coming out anyways. So I don't know how you hold a gun to the other side of his head when somebody next to him has the right to fire theirs. So that's the tough part, and the one way he could fix this, I'm sure he thinks, is to buy his way out of it. Is that if I'm just a billionaire and I get out of this presidency, whether they impeach me or what, and then I just make myself difficult to throw in jail like I have before forever, I'll be okay. I can pay enough lawyers to keep this busy forever, right? And so he might be counting on that at this point. At this point, again, he's as desperate about this stuff as Putin is about the fact that he's screwing up the entire war effort. So,
Yeah.
And
I
think
there's also another terrifying aspect of it is that I do think that the Kremlin has something on Trump and that
Sure.
he is compromised.
Yeah.
But additionally to that, and perhaps even more terrifying, is that it might just be that they see the world the same way.
Right.
They're just birds of a feather.
Mm-hmm.
And to have an American president working with a Russian leader with the idea of like, hey, it's all transactional, man, and if we're big and you're
Right.
small, who cares? Who cares? Yeah. And that kind of shared mentality between Putin and Trump is, to me, in many ways,
scariest part. Yeah.
just as terrifying as the idea that
Mm-hmm.
they've got a dossier somewhere in the Kremlin that shows him with.
Yeah, I agree. I do think it's a pit bull fight to some degree, though, is because eventually they have to turn on each other. This was the problem the Germans and the Japanese had. This will always be the problem that the Russians and the Chinese have. And if Trump thinks of himself as carving off the third section of a tripolar world, which is somehow how, like, at least the Curtis Yarvin, Peter Thiel crowd around him thinks, that we'll just own this hemisphere and the hell with the rest of the world. And let Russia take Europe. We don't need them anyways, or whatever their idea is. Eventually, somebody's going to go, oh, no. I was eating that, and that is enough for them to attack each other. I mean, this is three.
And then we're all in.
Yes, then that's what we live with. Let's grab another one, Johnny.
I think that's all I've got at the moment.
Okay, great.
You surprised us, yeah.
No, that's okay. If anybody in the chat has any kind of questions for Phil, please pass them on. I think everybody was prepped for the second hour or whatever.
Sorry about that.
No, it's totally fine. The Trump is there's a couple things that have happened that I think deserve addressing. Though one is that the U.S. What's it called? Like the investment fund. There's a U.S. investment fund that is suing Russia for $228 billion left over from like Lend-Lease stuff and all kinds of other stuff, which is double, their military budget. I'm fairly certain. I think their military budget is like 140 billion, somewhere close to there. So it's pretty close. Is suing them for that right now. And Trump's newest idea is he wants a peace council, not unlike what's he thinks is going to happen in Gaza, Which, when he said that about Gaza, like, we're going to have this peace council and I'm going to be the head of it, and all these other countries are desperate to be on it. The problem is that a parcel to that is we own Gaza. He added that whole thing is like, we run the peace council, and therefore, to establish peace forever, we've got to have a permanent space on that peace council, that technocracy that oversees Gaza. If he's planning a peace council for Russia, Ukraine, that means we own the territory between the two of them forever as well. So we become de facto guarantors. Anyways, it's just, I mean, he's a moron, but this clearly seems to be this thing where he just thinks, yeah, no, that's it. We'll just say it's ours now. Like our own Article 5 or something. It's insane. Yeah.
Well, it's back to this idea of we're big, you're small, ergo we get to make the decisions. And that has been the
Whoops. Is that right?
Phil froze. We were doing so well.
I know we were. Well, it's not surprising that he might have to log back in, or maybe an issue with the internet there. He may pop back in. Give us 1 second. Yes, but this has been the de facto. Oh, there he is. Okay, sorry. There we got you, Phil. Sorry, we lost you for a split second. Oh, and we lost you again for a split second. This is the nature of internet. There you are. Hi, Phil. Go ahead. We lost you for a second.
Hi, sorry. No, I'm just saying, like, if we fall back on that, then we're just going to be doing the same thing over and over and over again.
And that's what they're counting on.
Which is what they're counting on. If we're big, you're small, we make the decisions. Ultimately, that means empires will conflict with other empires, which is why we built the post-Second World War world order, where we had an alliance that said big, small, doesn't matter. You attack one of us, you attack all of us.
Exactly.
And Trump has been trying to erode NATO because that's what Putin wants as well, because they are fellow travelers in the idea that big conquers small, no matter what, whether it's right, wrong, legitimate, possible, whatever. And
Johnny, did you see that question from Coach Scher that just came in? Yeah, bring that one up, because I'd like to hear Phil's take on that too, as far as the territories. If we can, it says which areas or fronts are the most strategically contested at this moment, and why are they critical to the broader direction of the war, if they are indeed?
Yeah. Right. Okay. So we have an incursion in a place called Sumy, which is just on the other side of the Russian border, Belgorod, which those of you who remember and have been following this war, was where the Ukrainians did a surprise incursion into Russia. Just on the other side of that is Sumy, and so the Russians are making an incursion there, and they're finding some headway, but for the cost, that gives them an advantage on attacking Ukraine's second largest city, Kharkiv. So that would be bad, but it's a long way off from being a done deal. There are problems still that continue along what are called the fortress city lines of, like, Kramatorsk. There's still Petrovsk. There is Kupiansk, Sloviansk. These are industrialized cities in Ukraine's east, where they have turned the industrialization into defensive positions. So they're going to, if the Russians want to take these cities, they are filled with factories and foundries and smelting areas and industrialized areas that could be easily turned into defensive positions. So they're making some progress out there, the Russians are, but very, very little compared to for the cost that they're putting off. And they're not really going to be able to do it in the winter, although they are still continuing to fight. But when they really can't do it is going to be in about 6 weeks,
right?
When the rains come and everything turns to mud. It's hard enough to do offensive operations and then secure the territory that you've advanced into when the ground is frozen, it is 1,000 times worse, and that's hyperbole, obviously.
Mhm.
But it is magnitude of conditions worse when everything is mud, and that's going to happen in about 6 weeks.
Right.
So they're not going to get where they want to go. There's some pressure on a place called Zaporizhia, which is a river crossing. If the Russians were able to succeed and secure that crossing, that would
Mhm.
be very bad because the river is a natural barrier. If they can cross it, then they can sweep through and go up, say, the right bank, and go along these river cities. But that's far from a done deal as well.
Gotcha.
They're just not. The Russians
Yeah.
don't have the capacity to do what they need to do.
Agreed. We got about a minute left in this hour, and I want to remind everybody that On the Edge won't have any new shows for a little bit, considering just because of the weather and because it's all right because of what's going on here. Although I probably will be able to talk Phil into at least posting shorts and stuff to keep people abreast of what's going on there and his experience there. Wag finger, wag finger. But at the very least, you can subscribe to his channel and watch the content that he has been putting up. Spread that stuff around because it's still, just as important. All of the conversations he's been having on the Edge, are still, indicative of what's happening there. I will say one bit of good news: China has stopped as of January 1st buying electricity from Russia, and they failed to honor their contracts from the last, I think, 3 months, anyways. So this idea that they're rushing into each other's arms is garbage. Phil, thank you for being with us. Be safe, and we will talk to you again
Thanks,
soon.
guys.
We'll
Stay
be back
warm,
right
Phil.
after this.
We're just gonna have to roll with it until
Yep.
maybe we get this a little bit
That's
more
right.
secure. So thanks for the flexibility.
Absolutely. Yeah. Be safe, and Johnny, give me a second, and I'll bring you in, and then we'll let you go, Phil. Thanks so much.
All right.
And then we'll
Keep
bring in
Ukraine
Mr.
in your
McGee.
minds, people.
No, I don't hear you, Hal. I heard Chicago, and I see your lips moving, and I see the chat.
Publish. We'll go
There we
live.
go.
There we go. Sorry, I got to put you in here and for this next.
I'll be Rob
thing.
Glenn. I'll pretend to be smart. Well, there's
Yeah.
that thing with the stuff and the. Wait, that's not how.
Good
it sounds.
job. You're really doing great stuff there. It's good. Hold on. I'll remedy this to bring you in, and then I think Doc Adam is going to be with us like the second half of the first of the next hour. I am fairly certain. We'll see if he pops in right away. But there we go.
Is that the guy from the $6 Million Man?
No, that's you're thinking of Oscar Goldman. That's completely different.
Here
Here we go. There you go. And Johnny Million is a thing to do. We do. Boink. There we go. And then I'll give you your tunnel back because you deserve it.
I still just see Rob Glenn.
Hold on. I'm working on it. Ta-da! Why didn't it save my word thing? I don't know. Whatever happened. I see. It didn't hit
Rob,
save.
I'm about to besmirch the fuck out of you.
No, I got it. You can't. Too late. Too late. Sorry.
Ah.
Womp womp.
I'm Rob Glenn, and I endorse this message.
It's like, did you ever hear Chris Bono's Chris Bono's impersonation of my stand up? I'm Al Sparks and I'm mad. That's all he would do. I'm Al Sparks and I'm mad. I'm like, all right, yeah, pretty much. Yeah, that's where you get it.
I like that.
Yeah. So yeah, son of a bitch. Somebody needs to watch the chat for all these people on Facebook who post these like, I went to a witch doctor in Catalina and he cured my sciatica and my AIDS. Like there's a bunch of those people that pop in. It's so
I love
odd.
that.
Yeah, both.
It's all about stem cells these days.
It is. By it. Hey.
Hey.
Hey. It's all ball bearings nowadays.
Hey, Hal,
there we go.
1 minute.
Okay, excellent.
1
Cool.
minute.
So let me. Our dear friend Doc Adam is waiting in the wings. Let me go to preview mode, and I'll bring him in just 1 second with the same.
Is that the guy from Buck Rogers?
Quit it. That's Dr. Theopolis.
You love it.
I do. I kind of do. It's all right. Let's see. And then we'll put this in here, and we'll bring him in just 1
You know,
second.
I've already got a few in the chamber.
Oh, boy. Oh, good. And this is the first time you guys are meeting, though, so it'll.
Yeah, I've never met
nice.
him. Yeah, I'm not going to throw down and ask him if he's the guy from The Greatest American Hero.
Stand by. We got about 10 seconds. 10 seconds.
That's Robert. Thank you. That's Robert Culp. All right, there we go. Here we are.
You always do remember you do know who I'm thinking about, though.
Of course
Is that
I do.
Robert Culp? No,
Yeah,
it's not
yeah.
Robert Culp.
This is Tom
See,
Hartman,
there
and
he
you're
is.
listening
Hey, Doc
to
Adam.
Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide, Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT.
He's all right. Fell over. He's fine.
Oh my God.
Welcome back to the show. So joining us right now is our dear friend Doc Adam Allen, Epistemic Crisis on your socials. And I wanted to
Is
bring
he
him
the guy
on
that
today.
hosted on That's Incredible?
No, that's Skip Stevenson.
Damn it. I'll figure it out. I know I've seen you somewhere before, Doc.
That's right. So Johnny. I've had the joy of having Doc Adam on the live stream, but I have not had a chance to have him on the radio. And we wanted to talk about, by and large, Donald Trump's brain turning to tapioca. As we all watch it live, and over the last little bit. Doc, first of all, let everybody know how you first got into talking about Trump's obvious decline, and the response that you got from people, because this is to some degree a new audience for what we've talked about. So we'll try and not gallop ahead of everyone. But what struck you and motivated you to start talking openly about this? Because there's always that fake unwritten rule that you're not supposed to diagnose somebody from a distance. But it's hard not to, right? So what was the turning point for you, and what was you're like, uh-oh.
So when I saw the pictures of his feet and ankles, and I realized that he most likely has congestive heart failure and or chronic kidney disease, just like many of the patients that I see on a day-to-day basis, I realized, wow.
Oh, wait, I see you on TikTok all the time.
Oh, is that right?
Now he remembers.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
you always start the video saying how long you've been working in your field and everything. Yeah. You are not the guy from The Incredible Hulk. You're the guy from TikTok.
There you go. Yeah, Dr. Adam Janes, YouTube is Epistemic Crisis. He's an ex-church cult member committed to intellectual honesty. There's the link right there for everybody who wants to look at it on screen right now. There. Yeah.
There we go.
So, So back at you again. You saw his feet swelling up like balloons. And
And I think the White House has been lying from the jump about that being chronic venous insufficiency. It was the degree and the character of swelling that he displays that let me know it's not CVI. So then I started commenting on his health in my videos, and that's what really, got my content off the ground. And next thing I know, I stumbled upon Dr. John Gardner, who used to be faculty at Johns Hopkins Medical School, and he's been sounding the alarm for against Donald Trump because of his psychiatric profile and his likely frontotemporal dementia since 2015. And so as soon as I saw that, I started observing him. I started looking for the dementia symptoms that Dr. Gardner was talking about, and it just flew from there. Every day he's doing something else that indicates that his brain is shrinking inside of his skull.
Excuse me, I heard that he is the healthiest president we have ever had, and and he could sink a mid-court jump shot versus Obama and dunk on him without ever having to take leading steps to get him towards there. I don't know what
he can tell a giraffe from a rabbit too.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, he can tell a difference between bumpy horse and regular horse.
Sure. So the White House, he himself and the White House goes along with it. He's a pathological liar because he is according to Dr. Gardner, who studied with the world's foremost expert on malignant narcissism. He is a malignant narcissist, and he will do anything. His greatest fear above all else is exposure that he's a fraud. So he will do anything to protect that.
Yeah, see, that's where I fall into, and we talked about this a little bit yesterday, and I wanted to bring this up, is that my diagnosis, if I may, and I know there's a rule against, adorable comedians who've starred in hit shows diagnosing presidential brains from a distance because God is watching us, is that I believe he's a malignant paranoid. I think he's afraid his mask will get stripped off and people will realize he's a mess. He's always hidden everything about himself. So you work with geriatric patients. You work with folks at this stage of life. And so, and I don't know how many people that have listened on the radio that have watched the live stream when we've talked about this. I had said my diagnosis, and you go even further. And by the way, kudos to you for wearing a Martin and Company guitar shirt for the record amongst me and Johnny. Anyways, I got a 1969 D18 upstairs that just calls my name all day long.
I have my granddad's 1945 Martin.
That's beautiful. Yeah, my dad just left me his 1940. His birth year. It's lovely. Yeah, we can do it.
I brought my pencil.
Give me something to write on. We've talked about. I said that there's going to be a narrowing window of cognizance that they are going to have to work with him. And I gave him till the spring. I was very generous. In August, I was like, by spring of next year, he's going to be consciously functional 4 hours a day, max. And that they're going to have to shove everything he does into that window, lest he, wanders off the tarmac into traffic. And they know it, right? And the only place where I was mistaken was it happened a lot faster than I thought. It's actually happening now. And so lately, what have you seen from him that contributes to this, your diagnosis? Tell everybody what your window is, because I found it shocking even for me. But your window of his either physical health or mental collapse happening in that time frame.
Yeah, so right now I think he's got 2 to 4 months before he either leaves the land of the living, or they invoke the 25th Amendment, or they go just full impeachment. I think that's the time frame. He's already sundowning. If you get past 5 o'clock, he will be unhinged. And they claim that George W. Bush was in the White House working at 6:45 in the morning the entire time he was president. Trump does not leave the residence until 10 a.m. That's because he sleeps till 9. He goes to bed at 4 or 5, and then he gets up at 9. He says, I don't need to sleep that much. I'm like, yeah, it's because your brain is telling you to stay up all night because it's shrinking inside of your skull. He's losing the suprachiasmatic nucleus in the hypothalamus, where your
Wait, I want to hear Johnny try to say that.
The supercalifragilistic.
Yeah, that's where I knew it. I immediately knew. He's got swelling in his supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, even though it's quite atrocious. So he's got. Sorry to interrupt, but this is going to happen.
No. I know. I can tell. There's undiagnosed ADHD in this show.
I'm diagnosed.
No, okay. My friend. Wait, you have stepped on a landmine. I happen to think that you have to prove there's an order before you can establish that there's a disorder. And a jack of all trades is master of none, but is often greater than a master of one. So thank you very much. I would rather be useful in a lot of arenas and have a bunch of unfinished projects like Da Vinci, rather than be somebody who's like, well, if you need anything but, your plumbing worked on, do not let that man in your house.
Yeah.
Right. Anyways, so so to that point though, he's got swelling in his supercalifragilistic. Sorry, stopped you there. So continue.
Right. So that structure is deteriorating. It's directly affected by dementia, by the atrophy in the brain. When you start to see atrophy of the brain on an MRI, which is why he had MRIs, they're tracking the progress of dementia.
Mm-hmm.
You see less of the brain tissue. There begins to be a gap between the brain tissue and the skull itself. That's because neurons are dying and being metabolized by the body. So there's literally less processing power available. The suprachiasmatic nucleus, where the master clock for your body, your sleep-wake circadian rhythm, you start to get disconnected from it. That's why he stays up all hours of the night, ranting and sharing the wildest stuff on Truth Social, because that's when you get more. Sundowning is after the sun goes down. You start to get more agitated, paranoid, and difficult to deal with, and all of your symptoms that you can normally hide during your golden hours, like you were talking about, those 3 to 4 hours where you can actually function as an adult around other adults. That's when it starts to go off the rails. So I think it's 2 to 4 months.
Yeah, hold it 1 second. I was trying to get this one to come up. Here you go. This explains all of his spontaneous sound effects.
Brother, imagine, people have normalized his absolutely absurd behavior for a decade now. And it is just so insane the way that he made fun of that weightlifter. Like it was only 2 or 3 days ago, 4 days ago that happened. Then he had the speech where he makes fun of Joe Biden coughing before he gives his State of the Union speech. And it's just so strange. It's so strange. And you can hear, I wish we could tell which idiots in the room are laughing, because they just don't, they're sycophants, obviously.
Lutnick is clearly laughing at him a good portion of the time. I think he is spontaneously laughing at someone like watching somebody fall down a flight of stairs, which we'll get to on the other side of the break, because once your brain stops breaking down, so therein lies your physical nature as well. Also, are you trying to tell me there's no such thing at McDonald's called the fish? I keep walking up and asking, and they're like, would you like with that? And I'm like, no, I just want a fish, and that's it. And a Diet Coke. All right, we'll be back right after this. It's the House Parks Radio program. Dr. Adam James is with us, along with Johnny Million. I'm sure the chat will have questions for you related to this, even if it's just help me pronounce some of these words. We'll be back right after this. Nice job, Drywit Geek. Sundown, you better take care. If I find ice been creeping round my back stairs. Right. That's pretty... nailed it.
Oh, I got you. I got you.
Uh-oh.
I got him.
Hey.
Also, no cat with houses... no house with cats has a... no house with cats has ADHD, because the cats will distract you even if you don't want to. I was... I was typing all my show prep stuff this morning with one hand because Chip decided he needed to be in my lap the entire time. And I'm like, dude. And I put him down and he jumped right back up. And I'm like, yeah, do you realize how much lost productivity is caused by cats? I'm just saying. They're lovely, but damn.
That's right. You either have neurodivergence or you just have cats.
That's right. It's one. Yes. And if you have both, God help you.
I like Schmoopy's question.
Yeah, we'll start with this one as soon as we come back, because it's that's kind of what I'm talking about, because I have a theory about how he goes down, and how if he has to, how I hope it goes down for the sake of the country.
1 minute.
Thank you. Okay, we got 1 minute. Excellent. We got. Sounds very familiar, Carl. Does it? Yeah.
How many platforms are you streaming to?
All of them. I'm we're currently right now we're on Instagram, Substack, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Rumble.
Brother. Okay.
Because I don't trust anybody. I don't trust that one of them won't go down. I don't trust that they won't, ban me for some of the stuff I'm talking about. It took a year or more for YouTube to put a thing in that discusses a difficult topic, something, a touchy political topic or whatever that would get your video pulled down.
Stand by.
without going, I'm not advocating it. I'm trying to advocate against it. I can't even bring up the topic to try and inform people with it.
Now let's get back with Hal Sparks' radio program, Mega Worldwide.
So the questions I'm sure are coming in hot and heavy in this regard, but one of the first ones was from our dear friend Schmoopy in the chat. When does he get to the point where he can't walk? This is Trump, where he becomes less ambulatory. I think he already is a little bit.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So wide-based gait is what we call it. It's one of the characteristic symptoms for frontotemporal dementia. You're already seeing him swing his right leg kind of in a semicircle motion rather than swing it through like a normal gait pattern. So the wide-based gait is already present. The wider somebody's base of support is, it's an adaptation for their subconscious realization that they know their risk of falling is actually pretty high. So they widen their feet out to keep from losing their balance.
That's weird because I literally stand on one leg most of the show. I'm not kidding. I'm doing it right now.
Doc, what is it that makes it? This is the time when I always tell my wife, if you see me doing this, you just walk me out to the woods and tell me I'll find my way home. Like when you see people of a certain age do this.
Yeah. So
what is
that has to do? Yeah, that has to do with affect. It's the facial expression is connected to. It has to do with affect, but also frontal lobe function. And in Trump's case, he has frontal lobe atrophy. So the frontal lobe is your filter, and it monitors whether you're doing the appropriate thing or not.
Oh,
and so
mine
once you
has been
start
challenged
changing
for some time.
Yeah. So if you have frontal lobe pathology, one of the symptoms is going to be that you stop making the facial expression that you should, and you get that slack jawed.
Yeah.
And Trump's jaw is already slack. It's just that his mouth isn't open. He's just.
Is there a default comfort level to it as well, where that will feel more comfortable to just let it go because you're managing it, because it's stressful to try and manage your facial expressions after a while, and you start just going like, he did that yesterday at that whole, when he whispered to somebody like, we need to wrap this up about the healthcare thing, and he went, he's doing that way more. He's doing that whole like this like mouth breathing jaw drop thing.
Yeah. So he's caring less and less every day. He will care. Dr. Gardner says it really well. He's like, the Donald Trump you see today is the best Trump you're ever going to see, because he's only going to get worse. There's never going to be a trend up.
Yeah.
Here's a question from the chat from Coach Cher. I cleaned homes back in the day, and a few of my clients had Alzheimer's. Many of them tried to hit me before they were put in a home by their families. Do you think Trump will hit somebody?
He might take a swing at somebody because he's angry, but frontotemporal dementia is distinct from Alzheimer's in that Alzheimer's involves flat out forgetting. So you just your memory leaves you, and it's just a hole in your memory. With frontotemporal dementia, you fill in the holes with what's called confabulation, where you make up a lie that you 100% believe is the truth.
Oof. Yeah.
So
that sounds about right.
Yeah. It's quite likely that the entire, 2020 election fraud idea is coming from Donald Trump's dementia, because he really believes that happened. And he did everything he could to act on that. So the Alzheimer's is more likely to be combative. So for Trump, I don't think it's going to be quite that he takes a swing at somebody. It's just I think he's going to get verbally irritated and, threaten people with some sort of legal action, which he always does. By the way, he never did follow through on his lawsuit against the Wall Street Journal for releasing that letter between him and Epstein. But he's constantly threatening, just the way he lives. He's sad that Roy Cohn is not here anymore.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, birds of a feather flock together, and he's one lonely bird right now.
That's right.
So and I guess in line with that, is there a chance that he will take lies he knew were lies, and then will, because of how his brain is and confabulating things, he's going to start making up, like his lies will become truths to him. He'll talk himself into it. He will propagandize his own brain. Is that a possibility?
Yes, it is. he will literally lose touch with reality. One of the functions of the frontal lobe is called reality testing, where for regular folks with no frontal lobe pathology, when we hear something, when we hear like an off the wall conspiracy theory, for example, we have the wherewithal to reality test. Wait, does that seem true? What do I know about other things that I've proven false or proven true in the past that can help me determine whether or not this new idea is true or not? He's going to lose that. And so his entire reality is going to become of his brain's own making. It will have it may be constructed somewhat from what his advisors are suggesting or what they want to see happen. But I mean, he's going to be in his own world. Right.
Well, he seemingly is already. I mean, lately, Stagma says someone should just start off with, how often do you talk to Roy Cohn's ghost?
They should.
Yeah, I mean, that'll be late in the game. He's going to start seeing people, I suppose, that he, or did I dream it? But what, so if it's affecting your physical ability, that's why he's been lately more and more afraid of stairs. If you listen to him talk, he used to mock Biden incessantly about tripping going up the stairs. And now it is abundantly clear he is afraid of falling down the stairs.
That's correct. So I would point you to the press gaggle that he did on Air Force One, where he the clip went viral, of course, where he was saying, I got to grab something. It's not going to be Caroline. The reason he's even thinking about holding on to something is because his balance is bad. He knows that his balance is bad. That's why he pushed back in a different press conference about how fast Barack Obama used to come down those stairs. And I made a video where I compared the footage between Obama coming down Air Force One stairs and Trump doing it. Some people were like mad that I compared Trump to a 45-year-old man. And I'm like, my brothers and sisters in Christ, you have forgotten what it is like for the president to be a functional human being.
Yeah.
Right.
You guys have lost the plot. So he pushed back against that because he knows his balance is bad. He's mortified of falling down the stairs. And I think he's going to. I think he's going to fall. And if he has any sort of fall event in private where maybe he gets hurt, breaks a bone or something like that, they're going to have to move heaven and earth for you to not see him in any sort of challenging walking situation. No stairs, not even a step up, none of that. But it's going to get tricky.
Well, and I also think there's an ego aspect of this as well. Where,
Lord, yeah.
Where you one of your points you made when we were talking was that one of the reasons he's going to have a really bad outcome is because he's a terrible patient. Whereas Biden tore either a ligament in his ankle or injured his ankle basically in the campaign in 2020, and so he always does the Peloton, like he's always on it. They've got that bike set up, and there was a big thing about the security aspect of the Peloton, if they were going to bring it into the White House, if he could use it, because he uses it so often, because he couldn't go out bike riding. And he fell over on the bike when he was trying to stop and put his foot down, which happens to people anyways. But as soon as that happened, it was just like he mocked him incessantly. The right mocked him incessantly. And yet he got back up, and it was really clear that he had a boot on his foot when he had hurt his ankle before. He healed. He walks upstairs a little softer, and his back is always sore because he's riding a bike. That's his primary exercise as an old man, and so he's got that kind of it's almost like he walks like somebody who's sore from the gym the day before, but it reads as old man because he's old. Trump doesn't exercise at all, and they're not going to have any way of hiding that potential fall thing. Because it wasn't until we were really talking about the stairs thing that it really did strike me that there's a chance that he is going to fall, or maybe he has had a fall. He just didn't break something. And that's what started the whole MRI thing. I happen to think they lied about the MRI. They're trying to call it a CT scan to try and divert because they realized they let the cat out of the bag.
I think he had both.
Yeah, I agree.
I think he had every scan that is medically possible.
Right. Yes. Yeah. They did a brain scan and found nothing, clearly. But there's also a thing is, as the dementia gets worse and there's more space between the skull and the brain, is a fall more damaging?
It certainly can be, because your safety awareness is leaving. His safety awareness is leaving him.
Right.
I'm coaching patients with dementia. I had a patient recently she lives in a 2-story house with her family. She fell down the stairs from the top of the stairs to the bottom.
Oh,
and
like Ivana Trump.
Exactly. She broke her neck. She broke several ribs. Everything was non-displaced. So there was no spinal cord injury. It's an absolute miracle. I told her to start playing the lottery, because obviously, luck is with her. But I have to coach a patient like that. Like, you shouldn't do X, Y, and Z anymore. Just modify that, or just don't do it, or have someone assist you with it. Because, and I have to tell these things to these patients directly, because their safety awareness is leaving them. They don't automatically know, that's probably not a good idea for me to, go all the way up those stairs when I'm really tired, walk down the stairs looking for a snack at 3:00 in the morning, stuff like that. No. So yes, it's more likely to be damaging, because he's not aware of how dangerous something is. Right. And the more the safety awareness leaves us, the more you're likely to get something that's what we call a treetop fall, where somebody falls from a standing position and their safety awareness just does not kick in, or it wasn't present to begin with, and they don't break their fall. Ooh, and they strike their head on something, and it ends up with a subdural hematoma or a skull fracture or all sorts of stuff. And I believe he does actually take a beyond him, the whole business with aspirin. I think he does take an anticoagulant. I think he does, and so that makes it even more dangerous for the brain.
Internal bleeding,
if you fall. That's right.
Bleeding
internal bleeding anywhere. Anytime
I do have a question from the chat for after the break.
Yeah. Okay. Let's take a break. We'll be back right after this. Thanks for being here, Doc. And I call you Doc because I'm a medical doctor. We've had this conversation before, but it's still fun. Doc Adam will be with us, and Johnny Million. Get your questions ready in the chat room at infotainmentwars.com or on the Facebook page. Facebook, where are your questions? We'll be back right after this. Jennifer, shame on you. Is anyone else getting a slight chub? Just at the idea of him pancaking. Now, again, we don't wish this on anybody, because he could fall on the button.
Right.
Our luck at this point. He would the one moment he would have to break his fall, he would put his hand out onto the hand scanner that launches all the nukes. Like, somebody be like, shut the football. Clunk.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Did you see the amazing picture of him with the Nobel Peace Prize?
Oh, my God.
Yeah, hold on. I'll see if I can bring that up.
So
he forgot that lady's name the next day.
Yeah.
Machado,
Yeah.
Hey, guys, about 50 seconds. 50 seconds.
Thank you.
The Nobel Participation Trophy, as they call it.
That's right.
Yeah. Oh, God, he looks like an aging televangelist.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, what a
reference. Ears and everything.
Sorry, I got to put you in this scene so you can see it.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
That's really funny.
He does. He looks like an aging televangelist. Hold on.
You know what's hysterical is he sends emails and, beats the bushes for cash just like a televangelist.
Oh, yeah.
His fundraising emails are hysterical.
Yeah. Well, it's the same audience.
It's true.
Stand by. A couple seconds.
Yeah. He knows who he's talking. Thank you. He's talking to a bunch of blue-haired old ladies
now
with
let's
checkbooks.
go back with Hal Sparks' radio program, Mega Worldwide.
So we're looking right now at a picture of Donald Trump getting his Nobel Participation Trophy. And the look on his face is he's forced grinning, like, I'm so happy. And he's standing in front of his like gold lame stuff around the outside. Whoops, I'll give you an ad.
And he also, I believe, and this is from a question in the chat too, from Brad in the chat. Could you ask Doc about the time it looked like Trump's right side of his face had a stroke? He forces like a perma smile most of the time, whether it's closed-lipped or gnashing his teeth. He's always like concentrating to not let that drop.
That's right.
Yeah,
that was at the 9/11 memorial. He was very fatigued, and he was sitting right next to the First Lady, and he was falling asleep, and the fatigue caused that stroke symptom, the right-sided face droop. from a TIA or a full CVA to be way more apparent. And we know that it's not Bell's palsy because the forehead was not involved.
Right. TVA is, of course, who are the people they call in to grope you at when you're going through the airport, right? Yeah.
Right.
It's
kind of like Donald Trump.
Yeah, exactly. Something to grab. Yeah, this is the picture of him.
Wow, that's not doctored?
No,
dude.
This is an actual picture of him from the 9/11 memorial. That's and it's there was a period of time where he was almost like squinting his right eye to try and keep his face lifted.
Hold it up.
He's been doing that a bunch lately. He's over affecting the muscle in his cheek to try and lift that side of his face. He's compensating all the time, right? I mean, and it's again, that's not going to get better either, right?
No, it's not going to get better. And again, between his diet, which is awful, his all of his microvasculature is always at risk because his cholesterol is probably through the roof. And on top of that, I'm assuming that his stroke-like event was what we call a thrombotic stroke, which is where a blood clot stops blood flow. You also have the other variety of stroke known as the hemorrhagic stroke, where you have a busted blood vessel or an aneurysm that pops or something like that. Those are actually more catastrophic because you can't clot bust a hemorrhagic stroke. If people are within the window for the drug known as TPA, they can break up a stroke and stop it in progress if they get to it fast enough. Hemorrhagic stroke, you're on your own. But so taking a handful of aspirin every day because I'm superstitious puts you at a greater risk of a hemorrhagic stroke.
Right. This is, I guess, the other. Yeah, this is the other question, of course, and I'm sure we'll have more of this from the chat as well, Johnny. But the hand / the other hand, because he's shown signs of it on the other hand. This is either them hunting for a vein, this BS that he said where Pam Bondi high-fived him and a ring cut him on the back of his hand. Even though the last time I heard you do high fives palm to palm, apparently she missed America. And she's got fingers like the alien face sucker, a.k.a. Johnny Million. Because Johnny's got some fingers. If Johnny, I'll tell you this, Johnny Million could high five my hand, and if he missed and was at an angle, his fingers could wrap around the outside of my hand, and his his engagement ring, which is gorgeous, could cut my hand. Sure, I'm sure. But like not Pam Bondi, and if Pam Bondi can do that, how small are your hands? But this is gnarly. So what's the prevailing theory besides a port on the hand, regular bruising? They've written it off as handshaking.
Yeah.
No, it's not handshaking. It is bruising that's a result of an IV site. That's my theory. He is most likely taking diuretics through an IV to be fast acting. Because fluid will build up too much on his body and he'll start to get into what we call fluid overload or decompensated congestive heart failure. So because he has access to the best healthcare in the world, he can get IV Lasix or Bumex or spironolactone whenever he wants, whenever he needs it. We know he's never going to, and this would make perfect sense with a non-compliant patient like him with an awful diet. Water follows salt, and we coach our heart failure patients all the time. Hey, you gotta stop eating so much salt. You gotta don't add salt to any of your food. You gotta stop eating out nearly as much as you do. And if you add something to your food for flavor, it needs to be a substitute salt like Mrs. Dash, like you can get at the grocery store. He doesn't care about any of that. And so he is going to do what he's going to eat however he likes. And that's well documented. He eats McDonald's like a fiend. So they give him the IV diuretics to prevent an emergency hospital, an emergency room visit. And so his veins are probably trash because of his diet, again, because he does not exercise. And also because of aging. He's 80 years old at this point. So they're finding an IV site on the back of the hand. That's the best vein that they can find. And they were using the right hand for a while. And then they moved to the left hand because maybe those veins got tired and needed to give him time to heal. But people keep asking, why don't they just do it in his elbow or like a subclavian or, whatever. And I'm like, his veins are crap.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah.
So that's what I think.
They'll also do it on the top of your arm if they've started to fade on the inside. And God knows they may have simply just run them dry. They may just be running out of, you know, other than putting in a fistula, I guess. Is that, you know, yeah, right. That they can just use as a port.
That would be the only. Yeah, but I mean, again, it's it bruises like he had a needle set in a vein right there.
Yeah, right. And
so originally I thought it was infusions of an Alzheimer's drug known as Kisunla or Leqembi.
I remember that.
But now that I believe it's more likely frontotemporal dementia for which there is no medication available, I believe it's IV diuretics and probably some sort of nutritional support, maybe to help because so many of the people who have heart failure also have kidney disease, and they probably watch his electrolytes like a hawk, and they're probably pumping him up with potassium most likely, because if you're taking a non-potassium sparing diuretic like Lasix, you lose potassium every dose of Lasix you get. So you have to take an oral potassium supplement if you're not the president. But if you're the president, you know, you can order order Natalie Harp to put her clothes back on and set this IV.
Right. Zing. I don't know anything to keep his heart rate up a little bit, I guess, after it starts to sag because of the excess fluid and the fact that his blood doesn't even need pumping because it's so thin. Is that the idea? Like, I don't know what in the world.
It's harder to resupply your brain with blood if it's too thin.
Yeah, right. And so he's like, that's why you take what your doctor suggests and not more. That part of it alone, I mean that sounds like that's going to be a contributing factor.
Yeah. When he said that, I thought to myself, this really is a TV show starring one of my patients. Like, this guy, he has all the diseases and the non-compliance and the ego and the utter resistance to what a medical professional would advise to keep you out of the hospital. He's doing all of it. I've been doing this the last 14 years. I never would have dreamed that the president of the United States would present just like one of the people that just got referred to my agency after a hospital stay.
and so what are the people around him doing? And this will be my question. Then, Johnny, do we have another question in there? I'm sure we do.
I do, yeah. I've got a couple.
Okay. Well, then get those, and then I'll save mine for after the break.
All right. So one is it true? This is from our Shildreth. Is it true that sociopathy and psychopathy are untreatable?
Right. So, okay. So they're referring to what I have discovered to be called the dark triad of personality types: narcissistic, psychopathic, coercive control. The worst people among us, like cult leaders, right? Like Donald Trump.
Yeah.
So most of our data collection up to this point has come from prisoners who are self-reporting. That's not a great way to get good clinical data. It has advanced recently. There's work that was done by a scholar named Dr. Karen Mitchell, who is publishing a book on the subject, where she reached out to people who have treated the sociopathic, psychopathic types in clinic. So it's a much more effective data collection because they're actually working with these people who are in the civilian population who are taking some sort of step to get better, to improve their, relationship with the world and the people in it. As far as I know, I don't believe so. And there's evidence to suggest these people don't have just pathology. They have a different brain. There's MRI scanning that's been done for inmates who have been diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder, that their amygdala, the emotional center of the brain, does not light up the same way that everybody else's does. So their ability to empathize, to feel bad at the prospect of someone else experiencing pain, it just doesn't register for them. So shout out to the therapists out there that are working with that population. But as far as I know, I don't believe so.
That's why he can feel embarrassment and not shame.
Yes, we talked about that last night.
Yeah. So my theory for a long time is that's why you can mock him and motivate him, but you cannot shame him with real empathy, because it doesn't register. It doesn't make sense to him. I mean, listen to the conversation he had that Mary Trump tells about. I believe it was her cousin or whatever that had the child who was, wheelchair bound. I believe it was either spina bifida or something along those lines. And he was like, "Why don't you just let him die and buy yourself a nice condo, like with the money? Like, why are you keeping him alive? You do all this, you work with him all the time. Why are you keeping him alive when you could just use that money for something else? You could invest in real estate." That was really the callback, and that was when he was, in theory, healthy.
Yeah.
This is going to get worse. It's going to get way worse. The question is, my question was, well, and again, we're almost to that point. So let's get one more question, and then I have my question after the break, because this is this is what really
from Facebook. Why doesn't the White House doctor intervene? Why doesn't power-hungry J.D. Vance invoke the 25th?
Yeah, close to my question.
So they are okay. So the doctor is not intervening because he's just complicit, just like every other doctor that has ever treated Donald Trump. He doesn't go to a doctor for the truth. He goes to a doctor to be complicit with whatever he wants to have portrayed to the public. One of his previous physicians in New York City told the press regarding the summary of his health that he released in 2015, I believe. Trump dictated that summary himself. That did not even come from his doctor, and he attributed it to his doctor. So he's been lying about this stuff for a decade. So he only wants people close to him who will help him keep up the charade. That's why he churned through high-level staff during his first term. He appointed Rex Tillerson Secretary of State. That guy was 3 times qualified to do that job. And in like 2 months, Rex quit. And he didn't say why. He lost his director of communications. He lost this guy. He loses that guy. This guy resigns. This lady resigns. He churns through people because he needs people to help him lie. That's all he's doing. What was the second part of the question?
And why doesn't J.D. Vance invoke the 25th?
J.D. Vance doesn't have the cojones. J.D. Vance is a political prostitute. J.D. Vance is not even his real name. This is like his fourth name. He is a proximity to power guy. He is not a leader. He can't, he can.
He doesn't have control of MAGA. I think they fear that his handlers know for a fact that there is no version of J.D. Vance being the MAGA king the way Trump was. It's just not happening. He's,
no.
Like Trump has at least got a history of mythology that he can stand on. That he is, that there are a bunch of people that have bought into the BS, and those folks are committed to that. J.D. Vance does not have an audience committed to that. He does not. You cannot pass off Falwell to Falwell or Jim Jones to Jones Jr. It doesn't work that way. And if you do, they have to be equally as they have to be. Even kingdoms, they used to push the next person in line up and make them make a big show of it. And they've tried that with Vance a couple of times. Let's take a break because when we come back, I want to talk to the circle around Trump, the maintenance group, and which is becoming increasingly clear. These people are more aware whether they want to say it out loud. Are those people going to slip and talk? We'll be back right after this. Yeah, this damn son.
Bro, if you just Google facial droop, the pictures that come up, they look just like that.
Yeah.
Hey, Hal, just about 1 minute.
Thank you.
Yep. Every
now,
single
how do you
one
guys
of them.
know each other?
How would I know each other?
Yeah.
We went to high school together at New Trigger in Chicago. Yeah.
Yep.
Shut up, bro.
We've known each other since 1986.
That's right.
All right.
Maybe 1985.
Yep. Here,
85?
this is, here you go. Let me throw this in there. This is like, this guy right here, the facial droop on, let's see. Yeah, where's my mouse? Get out of here. It's so small. This one right here, the close up.
That's it.
Yep.
His mouth has the exact same contour.
Yep. It is identical. Yeah. This
And you
is a
notice
full.
the muscle tone is consistent across his forehead, though. So we're dealing with facial droop from a stroke.
All right, stand by. We've got about 10 seconds.
Unless they gave him Botox. Hold on,
I suppose that could help. I've never had a patient who asked me about it. So
I am happy, you are happy. Let us be happy together, whether the weather is cloudy or sunny. I will always be your funny honey bunny. I am lucky, you are lucky. Let us get lucky together, whether the weather is cloudy or breezy. I'll be there to say, hey, come on, let's take it easy. Because isn't it nice to have the friends that you do? And isn't it nice that the sky is so blue? And isn't it nice to say I love you, chugga chugga choo choo, woo woo. I am smiling, you are smiling. Let us smile together, whether the weather is cloudy or stormy. I will still be there in the morning. I'll be right by your side in the morning. I'll make you breakfast in the morning. I hope that you like cereal.
Yay! So I think everybody in the chat is really going to consider the idea of Trump leaving office very soon to be good news in general, just for the record, right? But again, this is not us wishing this upon this man. This is us dealing with the reality of where we are as a country. And all this talk about Biden, and elder abuse and all this kind of stuff that they lay off on Trump trying to do this auto pen, nonsense, when Trump himself wishes he could use the auto pen because he doesn't want to have to do the work of actually signing all the stuff you have to do as president. Because that's like half your day as president. Is there a lot of legal reasons why you are the executor? You're the executive of the administration, so you have to make sure stuff happens. You either do it by hand or you entitle somebody to do it via the auto pen if it's a bunch of different stuff. And Trump wishes he could use that, but they talked him out of it because allegedly Biden used it. All presidents use it. Like if there's like an entire level of it, what happens in the DOD, you have to sign off on so much stuff that it's your day. Like Wednesday is just
it's an old device.
Yes,
it's been used for decades.
Yeah. So my thing is the people around him. Is it ubiquitous? Are they all aware at this point? Are some cabinet members still in the dark, or is it just obvious to everybody?
It's obvious to everyone. It sure is obvious to Marco Rubio.
Yeah. So if those don't know, Marco Rubio handed him a note at the healthcare meeting, and Trump read the note out loud and said, Marco just handed me a note.
Marco's handed me a note. What does his note say?
So, yes, they all know. And they have all positioned themselves and plotted for the post-Trump world. And the top of the list is Susie Wiles. Susie Wiles, you got to respect this chick. She's an absolute killer. She talks to the Vanity Fair reporter for months.
Oh yeah,
and
her.
Let's just remember, Susie Wiles has been working in politics on the state level at the least for 50 years almost.
She's also Qattar's PR agent. Her PR company handles Qatar and UAE businesses and all that kind of stuff. That's the other reason he brought them in, where he ends up with a big golf tournament / golf course over there after this is all over. He's promising her she's promising him a rose garden.
Brother, the sheer amount of self-dealing, it is biblical. But she's talking to this reporter on tape. It's not hearsay. Vanity Fair said, we got it all on tape. So if you guys want to dispute, whatever, we got the receipts. She talks to this guy for months on end. And she basically did that article as a escape plan for the post-Trump world. She said so much without saying so much. She knows exactly what she's doing when she's talking with a reporter. She knows. She's been doing this forever, okay? So when she tweets, the Vanity Fair article is just a hit piece. I'm like, you lying piece of excrement. You know exactly what you're doing. So she's been positioning herself for months, probably ever since, the true nature of his current health came out. And so she's ready. And she even spoke to that reporter about making sure that the newest members of the MAGA coalition are Republican voters, not just Trump voters. That is future proofing their base.
Yeah.
She knows exactly what she's doing. So they all know, and they have all. J.D. Vance met with Rupert Murdoch and Peter Thiel at Murdoch's ranch in Montana. I had somebody who lives local to that place DM me on Instagram and say, I saw the motorcade pull through my town, and I wondered, who is that and what are they doing here? And then he heard through the grapevine, it's the vice president. So Vance has already planned. That's why you start to see this slow trickle of damaging stuff come from the Wall Street Journal, which is a historically right-wing publication. Why are they publishing the letter between Trump and Epstein? It's because Murdoch owns it, and he wants Vance to be the next president. They've already planned all of this.
Yeah.
So yes, they know.
Yeah, and so the argument would be is that they knew early. She's been doing this for months. That means in the beginning they're like, "Oop, I can see the end of the runway. We are running out of room. We're not going to have liftoff with this dude anymore. So we got to jam everything through, get as much stuff signed and put in place so that it looks like J.D. Vance is just managing Trump's legacy." Because nobody's going to want to take his ideas and run with them. Nobody in the House and the Senate are afraid of him. If we lose control of the House and the Senate, J.D. Vance will be the man who enabled, and Susie Wiles will never she'll get called as a witness, but she'll just not because of, executive privilege or whatever. But J.D. Vance will be called down as somebody who knew full well that the president was in failing health and did nothing about it. And that will lead to, questions about his impeachment as well. But certainly, the biggest problem they have is that maggots aren't going to line up behind this guy. He's too much of a dweeb, and they know it.
They're not.
And so your theory is that not only does she know, everybody knows, and there's probably roundtable 25th Amendment style meetings that are already happening.
Yes.
Just dealing with this. Is there a like shadow meetings like you have to do with the family when somebody's like, okay, look, this person still got keys to a car.
Yeah.
They're still living in their house, but we need to talk to everybody in this person's circle. Because if they hear us talking about it, they're going to flip out and they won't listen to anything we're saying, right? Because of paranoia, because of their own brain fail. So
that's right.
More than likely, there is a shadow government going on inside our government that is like 25th Amendment adjacent, training wheels version.
Sure. It could be, but they, it requires them, whipping the votes inside the cabinet, so to speak.
Right.
So, I think it's more likely. Is it Article 2, Section 4 that's part of the 25th? Do I have that right? I got to go look this up. But there is a scenario where the entire administration can basically be impeached. And I think if Congress flips, like it looks like it will in the 26 midterms, that could actually happen, which would be ideal because I don't want to have any of those people in charge of anything. So,
well, that's what they're afraid of too, is that like this all comes out like this. One of the big things that they've been talking about, curiously enough, was the enormity of the scandal around Joe Biden and the auto pen and who was telling him what, right? This is it. And the reason that they're fixating on this is because I think this is exactly what they're doing. And what they're really asking is, if it is true, how'd they get away with it? Because we could use some pointers.
That's right. Well, the first step is to build a cult. So once you do that, I mean, come on.
But you can't build. I got to tell you, it's really hard to build one on the fly, especially when J.D. Vance has all the baggage that he has amongst the MAGA faithful. He was not the first pick; he was Don Jr.'s pick, and he was basically inserted because they wanted Peter Thiel's money, and Curtis Yarvin, was like their kind of Rasputin who's whispering in their ears, and both of these guys are just straight up evil, and MAGA even thinks so. Like they think they're evil geniuses, but they think they're awful, and they know that J.D. Vance is their boy.
Yeah, J.D.'s just a plant. I don't fear him as a politician. He's someone else's. He's always owned by someone.
Right. Well, by the way, Section 2 covers like how you fill the vacancy of the vice president. If the vice president dies, resigns, becomes president, or the office becomes vacant for a reason, the president chooses a replacement. That means that Vance becomes president and he can pick his own vice president from whoever he wants. That nominee must be approved by both the House and the Senate, each by a simple majority. The section's been used a few times in history. For example, with Gerald Ford when he was appointed after when Spiro Agnew resigned. But that's the primary aspect of it, is whenever there is a vacancy in the office of the vice president, the president shall nominate a vice president who shall take office upon confirmation. So there's some secondary things about what happens if he's impeached in the process. Then the Speaker of the House becomes president pro tem for a time. That was what they were always afraid of. That's why they didn't impeach Biden, was the theory, is that they wanted to do it as a package deal. But everyone's like, we get Kamala Harris out of there, then Nancy Pelosi is president. Remember, that's the big fear that everybody
can't
had.
have that.
That's right.
That's before Nancy fell and broke her hip overseas.
That's right. But even still, a broken hip versus a prefrontal cortex that looks like Swiss cheese. I think we know which one is favorable. We had a president in a wheelchair for 4 terms. So, before we get to the end of the hour, because we're in the last minute of the show, I want to remind everybody that Doc Adam James has his. He's on TikTok. He's on Shitter the show, whatever the tweeting device.
That was close.
And I saved. It was a good save. Yeah. And then, do you have a YouTube channel as well?
Yeah, it's also at Epistemic Crisis, just like
Epistemic Crisis. 2 C's. Yeah. It's not all run together in some sort of cool nickname. But that's where we'll be. I want to thank you for coming on today and fielding
it's really
nice
meeting you.
Yeah, it was great having you on. And we're going to have I don't know, what, a monthly check-in with you? How's that sound?
That would be fair.
I'm up for it.
Who knows what he will have done in 1 month's time?
Oh my God! I will start cataloging.
I'll come up with more late '70s TV dramas that I'm sure
absolutely.
I know him from.
Yeah. Isn't it? Yeah. Wasn't he Doc on the Love Boat? So thank you so much. Appreciate you. Thanks, Chicago. Thanks, Johnny Million, and thanks to Philip Bittner. Everybody, give money to those Ukrainian generators if you could. We'll see you next week. All right.
What a blast, Adam.
Yeah. Great. Yay. Appreciate you being on the show today. It was very, illuminating. And the thing about being in radio, thank you, Chicago. They probably had to jump onto the next show. But that, as this has progressed, I've been saying this for a while, that, as I watched all of his rallies and I watched the decay happen. Mm-hmm. And I think he did not age in the first term like other presidents because he's a sociopath, but he is aging in this one because this is the first time he's ever been afraid, really afraid. Mm. And that stress, one of the things they're going to, what would you say is one of the first things that you recommend to somebody who's got this to try and lengthen their time on this planet and their cognition?
Yeah. So, if you get diagnosed with dementia, you're going to want to, you have to assess the caregiving situation. How much assistance does somebody need in that moment? And is that a sustainable caregiving situation? Is somebody going to have to move? Is somebody going to have to be placed in a facility? There are memory care facilities within assisted living facilities and skilled nursing facilities that are appropriate for the the dementia population. If they can be cared for at home, the safety awareness is the biggest thing. It's like, can they be left alone, and how long? For how long can they be left alone? Mm-hmm. Are they going to try to go cook something? Are they going to try to turn on that stove? Are they going to be, out in the street chasing the dog?
Try to drive the car without the garage door being open?
Oh, brother. So all that safety awareness comes into play. And if it's me dealing with a patient and their family, I have a separate conversation, maybe on the front porch or something, with the family, where I lay out what this is, like what's going on. And I try to prepare them for, how the situation is going to go. I tell them something to the effect of, caring for someone who is dependent is more than a full-time job. Yeah. So you can't do this alone. You actually have to have either multiple family members involved. And I'll tell them I'll be watching you for signs of caregiver burnout I'm watching your health just as much as I'm watching your mom or your dad or whoever it is. So yeah, the keeping the patient in a consistent environment, as much routine as possible, so that they can have a reasonable expectation of what's going to happen day to day. And
for their comfort, right? And that lowers
for their comfort.
stress, right?
Sure, it keeps the agitation down. It keeps their paranoia down. And I also warn whoever the caregivers are, your real tipping point with being able to care for somebody at home is what they're doing overnight. If they will not sleep, you can't do this at home. Yeah. Unless you're going to hire 24/7 care, which rarely do people have the cash to do that.
Like we did with my dad. He didn't have dementia, but he had, he was dealing with his illness in such a way that, he would get up in the middle of the night. He would try to get up when he had a catheter in, so he couldn't, he would almost, like, he could pull it out if he wasn't careful. He wouldn't, but it would really harm him if it got snagged on the bed and he tried to get up in the middle of the night because he was just focused on that. So we had to work in shifts. There were, at least 2 of us there, but sometimes 3, and I was the heavy lifting one. I was the one in the, in the middle of the night. If he needed to get up, I could lift him. So that that was on me in that situation, more than anybody else. But if the weight of that circumstance shifted, I found myself like sitting on the edge of my bed. I'd try to go get some sleep, but then I'd be sitting on the edge of my bed, like hyper vigilant. If I heard a noise upstairs, I gotta go. And you just kind of just do it. You just kind of like it almost it hurts. It hurts. Like you're like, I know I need to sleep, and I know I'm supposed to let everybody else do their thing, but at the same time, I know I'm needed in this moment, and that can wear you out. So when does that start affecting the stress of the people working with him, the ones that care? Obviously, he's surrounded by sociopaths, so a lot of them aren't going to care.
Yeah,
but some of them, in theory, would. Ivanka's nowhere to be found. Don and Eric aren't anywhere near the place anymore.
No, his day-to-day care, his children are not involved with that whatsoever. They are just as terrible of people as he is.
Yeah.
Mary Trump told us so. She hasn't had contact with the family in years because, and I quote, they have no redeemable qualities. So they will never know what it's like to care for somebody with dementia because they don't care. They're not going to get involved with their dad. No. Ooh, that's rough, brother. Look at that. So yeah, he's already, and the funny thing is though, I think his staff are actually bearing the brunt of whatever, whatever his behavior. He makes fun of them for needing to go to sleep at 2, 3, 4 in the morning.
Right.
And they rotate on Air Force One. They will rotate to sit with him while he's awake doing whatever. So they're already treating him like a dementia patient. They just don't know it yet. Or they do know, and they hope to God nobody finds out.
Yes. Right. And they're going to find out all at once. I think that's really what we're dealing with more than anything else. This is one of those things, kind of like we talk about with Phil in Russia, is that nothing happens, and then everything happens. Like nothing changes in Russia. Putin seems to have a lock on everything, and then pow, it's going to happen like that, like 91. It's and in this situation, it's so extreme. It's he went out on that. I don't know if you ever got a chance to look at that video of him golfing with Kai. He did they did a little mini doc of him going golfing with his granddaughter. And he's huffing and puffing as they start the video. And this is just him walking from the building to the golf cart. He's like,
yeah.
The whole time. And it's bad. And so the fact that she doesn't notice, I mean, she's young, so maybe kids don't know. Grandpa's just old and has bad breath, and that's just life.
Dude.
Right?
I fear for that child.
Right. Yeah. So I'd love to have you back on the radio show sometime and talk about this some more if you'd be so kind, because this is going to be a very serious part of this. This is going to as we watch this happen, because I got to say it's it's going to snap shut at some point because he's going to fall, like you said, and it's either going to be a fall where he hurts. He's going to break his wrist, or his shoulder, or his arm, whatever. A foosh injury, right? Fell on outstretched
There
hands.
you go. There
Yeah.
you go. There you go.
Hey.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, mom's a nurse, so.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
So she's, like they deal with this stuff all the time. And in his particular case, he's going to do this at some point. And how do they hide that? I mean, the Band-Aid and
yeah. If he
is
falls
it that
and
arm
and has
under
an
the
injury,
desk like this all the time, like we're going to stop.
if there's a chance they can hide it, they're going to try because again, these are people without shame. But it's gonna reach a point. They're just praying to God it's not today. That's all they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the big thing is if that doesn't happen behind the scenes, it's going to happen on the stairs of Air Force One. It's going to happen coming down the stairs, not going up. And even if he falls forward going up the stairs, I don't think he's going to be able to catch himself the way Biden did. I think he's just going to, because he's bigger, he's a fatter dude, he's less coordinated, he doesn't bicycle or anything like that, so he doesn't have any compensatory muscle structure at all. He barely walks when he golfs even. So if he falls flat forward, he's going to slide. And if he falls forward, that's it. That's all she wrote, man. It'll be called Ivana's Revenge forever. I guarantee it.
Yeah, he's 270. I bet you he's 270.
Easy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Woof. All right. Well, thank you for being with us. I'll let you go.
All right.
Thank you, Johnny Million. I know you got to run off as well because for your daily stand in the snow, and
That's right.
just harden yourself against the elements. Yeah. All right. Much love to you guys, and I will see you later on. Hold on. I'll see
Take
if I
care,
can,
everybody.
Yeah.
See you guys.
Absolutely. All right. Cheers. There we go. And Johnny's gonna ditch out, and then where's my little windows? I'll at least let Doc leave with dignity. There he goes. All right, and it's me alone in a little black room with nothing. Why would that get muted every time I change to that scene? That makes no sense. None. Anyways, all right. What I was saying was we got to do something about the people who write those diatribes about it, your Hep C being cured by a witch doctor, and giving a WhatsApp number. Gotta keep an eye out for more of those. Anyways, I love you guys. I appreciate you. Take care of yourselves and take care of somebody else. Let me see if I can, since we're not on the air, I suppose I can leave properly with this one. Oh, that's not, I see. That's not going to the eCam. It should be. Can't not have my outro music. That would just be wrong on 100 fronts. There you go. To eCam. Here you go. And the Farrago thing is going on. Okay. And then, did the volume just get turned down? What happened? There we go. Blurb. Those people that said I look like Jesus, I really appreciate it. That's very sweet of you. My girlfriend thinks I look like an evil genius. And I'll take it. That'll work for now. All right. See you guys later.
Words